to the veterinarian in different region in the world. You are welcome to Sri Lanka Veterinary Association third international webinar series. This is our 10th webinar in third international webinar series. Today our topic is reproduction management of dairy cows in New Zealand. Our resource person is Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga, farm manager, Glendhu Dairies, New Zealand. Dear doctor, thank you very much for accepting our invitation for this webinar series and welcome you. And today our moderator is Dr. Suneth Disnaka, Vice President, Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. And on behalf of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, I would like to welcome you all to the webinar series. Without getting much time, I would like to invite our moderator, Dr. Suneth Disnaka, to introduce our resource person today. Dear Dr. Disnaka, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sugat. Dr. Kulathunga, would you please do the welcome speech?
Yes,
on behalf of SLVA first. Yes, Dr. Kulathunga, over to you to start the welcome speech.
Good morning, good evening, everybody who has participated today for this international webinar today. So today's topic is reproduction in dairy cattle. Actually, the president of SLVA, Dr. Nilan Satrasinghe, is not available today to welcome you all. So on behalf of SLVA 75th Executive Committee, I welcome you all to this forum. So I think today's forum will be a very interesting session. Without taking much time, today's guest speaker is Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga, who is very experienced dairy veterinarian in New Zealand. So I think he will be giving you a very good on-hand experience of dairy reproduction to you all. So let's welcome Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga to the floor. So floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulathunga. Let me introduce Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga, the resource person today. Dr. Kulathunga was passed out in 2013 from the University of Peradeniya as a veterinary graduate. And then he joined National Livestock Development Board in Sri Lanka in 2013, and he worked for 1 year in National Livestock Development Board as a veterinary surgeon. Later, he joined the Fonterra brand Sri Lanka, and he worked as farm manager there for 2 years, and 1 year as farm and extension manager. Then Dr. Kulathunga moved to New Zealand in 2018, and currently he is working as a farm manager in Glendhu Dairies Limited, Southland, New Zealand. Dr. Kulathunga is having a very good experience and knowledge on dairy cow management in Sri Lanka and overseas, and he's having very good experience in New Zealand dairy farming, and he's good at not only management and healthcare and also reproductive management. So today's the topic we have given to Dr. Kulathunga is reproductive management of dairy cows in New Zealand. So with his very valuable knowledge and experience, I would like to invite Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga to deliver the presentation today. Dr. Iroshana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Disnaka and SLVA also, to giving me the opportunity to talk everyone. So I will share my presentation now. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, good afternoon and good evening for everyone. So Today I'm going to talk about reproduction management of dairy cows in New Zealand. So we'll discuss, and this is the content of my presentation. So I'm going to talk about types of calving patterns in New Zealand. So not like in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka we have throughout the calving. So throughout the year we will have calving, mating, and dry animals, but not here. It's a little bit different than the other countries. We are pasture-based dairy farming, so a little bit different with the other region. So importance and the benefits of reproduction management and the reproduction management practices and management tool and technologies and best practices. And as I explained earlier, here we have seasonal and the seasonal and split calving. What means seasonal calving means actually at the one time of the year only we will have the calving, and the events are very narrowed down. Usually we have the late winter and early spring. That is the main calving season in New Zealand. So usually it starts from the early June, maybe late July and August and September, that period. Actually, that duration correlated to the how many weeks of duration of mating. So each year. So usually it's about 8 weeks to 12 weeks mating period, which means that's also reflect the 8 weeks to 12 weeks calving period within that period calving also. But some farmers have 2 calving season, so that we call the autumn calving. It starts March, April, May period. So that periods having they have only the small number of animals compared to the other calving season. That's the main calving. That's the winter and the late winter and early spring calving. That's the main calving. But some farmers also join another calving to make their milk production steady, because sometimes it's because the seasonal calving pattern, the late May or the early June we have to dry off the animals. That means the cut off the milk production. There's no income during that period. So some farmers doesn't like that one, so they want to keep the milk production and earn some milk, some money. So and keep the production in steady, so they go for the seasonal split calving also. But the split calving, there's everything is depend on the feed management. Feed management. So I will explain how it happens here. So you can see here that if it is the main seasonal calving, that's the first one. So we usually dry off our animals here late May or early June. It because of the climatic condition of the country. So after that, all the animals will be in dry condition. So after 8 weeks and 9 weeks time, so calving starts. And again, November, December period will start mating. So that's the normal the milking season for New Zealand dairy farms. But some farmers have another milking season, so they don't want to cut down the milk production somewhere here though. So once they dry off this within the whole dry off period, that's in the June, July, early August, so there's no milk income. So some farmers wants to keep their milk production, so they join another calving that's we call March, April, May period. That's the autumn calving. So you can see once some animals calve the autumn period here, so main mob will dry off at the May and June period. So it's still another animals set of animals calve here. They will produce the milk to keep up the production. So, but the production will be a little bit lower, but they should be able to feed those animals, because that's during the winter period, grass production is going down. I will explain that one later. So, but you can easily see the first one is really simple. So sometimes few weeks of dry animals and few weeks of the calving and mating, and again dry off. That's a very simple method. So, but when it comes to the split calving, you can see there are 2 types of 2 times dry cows and 2 times mating, 2 times calving. So the same the way it's going, but it's complicated. But the first one is really easy, but the production goes down, will go cut off and what point. But the split calving, they can keep the production. But here you can see this one is feed demand and supply. So everything is related to this feed demand and supply. That's the major things we have to identify, because so the blue line is feed supply, that's we call growth rate, pasture growth rates. The other one is the red one is feed demand. So always feed demand and growth. So these farmers manage that one. So let's discuss about the main calving season that I explained earlier. So late winter and early spring. That's this August, September, October period. That's the main calving period. So you can see the red line, that's the feed demand, so is higher than the feed supply. That's we in the deficit period during the dry period. So that's why farmers wants to dry off their animals, because the feed supply is low and the feed demand is high. So imagine this animal is still in the milking condition. This feed demand curve is higher than what it is now. So those farmers cannot feed their animal. So what they have developed, because of that climatic condition, they decided to dry off all the animals here. So late May or early June. So once they dry off, their feed demands goes down, but still you can see, even though they are in a dry condition, feed demand is higher than the feed supply. So what they have to do, they have to make some silage from the last season and keep up with the feeding to manage this deficit period. So when the times is going up, so you can see cows are calving here, main calving August, September, October periods. Once the animals calving, lactation curve starts here. When the lactation curve is going up, but I haven't added the lactation curve here. It's because as we know, as veterinarian, we know the lactation curves once the cows comes here. So it goes here. You can see with the lactation curve, it starts for the main calvings, the feed supply also going up. So when feed supply is going up, when they come to the peak milk production, so their dry matter intake also high. So they can easily feed those animals who are calving here. That's mean giving the calving of August, September, October period. So they can easily feed their animals when the feed grass growth rate is going up. So then we'll go for the feed surplus, we'll make the silage. So then again, we'll go for the mating period. I will explain where we start mating, and let's discuss about the split calving. So split calving, so next is split calving, that's the autumn calving. It starts March, April, May period. So when the sets of animals are increasing their milk production here, so another the lactation curve starts here, but you can see at the moment the grass supply is low and the feed demand is high, and then another such sets of animals are going upwards. So how we can manage these animals in terms of feeding wise? So so those farmers who are having the winter in shade or they're able to feed these animals, so they go for the split calving. So most of the split calving farms, so they have the winter in shade. So they will keep the animals inside and the feed here, but their milk production is steady, and they will generate some milk rather than the other farmers. But so they have to maintain their they can maintain their production. So importance of reproduction management. So everything based on the seasonal pattern. That's why so when we discuss here, so everything's depend on the seasonal. So we can discuss to make cows pregnant as early as possible and manage feed demand and supply with the seasonal changes. That's as explained earlier. To manage the calving to mating interval. So I will explain that one also later. So to improve the productivity of the herd by selection and culling. Selection and culling is more important. I will show how the New Zealand, they are increasing their milk production for the last 20 years. So by selecting and culling. So to manage the replacement herd and number of growing time. So that is also important of the reproduction management, everything based on the seasonal. So once as seasons goes on, so we don't have much time to do. So that's why early calvers will generate more milk. So to manage the days in milk and length of herd dry period also, and feed the cows effectively. So for those things are very important for the reproduction management. So what are the benefits of reproduction management? So increase the profit, since the earlier cows generate more milk income than later calved cow. Not like in Sri Lanka, not like in the throughout the year calving. So because we have to dry off our animals, I will go quickly here backwards. So because regardless of where they are cow or where they are where they get pregnant, we have to dry off these animals at the late May or early June, regardless of where their pregnancy status. If they are pregnant, even the 5 months or 4 months, 6 months, we have to cut off the milk production here. Because the grass production is low. That's the grass supply is low. So we cannot manage this feed demand and the curve. So that's not the problem with the animals, that's the management issue. So once these animals cow, so imagine any animal cow somewhere here and the pregnant somewhere there. So regardless of where they are, so we have to dry off the animals. So that's why if you want to have the more days in milk, so what we can do, what we can make these animals to get pregnant early, and the cow somewhere here and get 10 months milking period. So I will explain that one also. Let's cull cows as empties, allow to cull genuine low producing cows and increase the herd size and the replacement herd. And more compact calving pattern will give enough time for the cows before mating as well. I will explain that one. So with the good picture. More cows getting in calf with artificial breeding. So we usually call artificial breeding, and providing more replacement heifers, because as New Zealand farmers keep the replacement herd only with offspring coming from the artificial breeding, not from the natural service. So for the natural, if we got the natural service pregnancies, those babies, those cows go for beef production. So having more growing days for the later born cows. And the minimum 8 weeks dry period, and they keep dry to more days in milk by calving early. So that's everything is depend on the seasonal changes. So as I explained earlier, you can see here, New Zealand has four seasons: summer, autumn, winter, and the spring. Now we are at the early spring. So during the winter period, here you can see the top one is the grass growth rate. That's a grass supply, and another way. But the bottom one is the temperature. So when the temperature goes down in the June, July, August, that's the winter period, the production is going down. So that's the deficit period. The farmers develop their method to dry off all the animals here. So once the grass growth is going up, so the animals will cow. So these animals cow and produce more milk. So that's the main calving season. As I explained here earlier, so the season starts with the 1st of June and season finish with the 1st of June. So the new season starts here. At the time of starting, the cows are in the dry condition, feed supply is low, so they will cow. So the main thing is we start the mating just after 1 month. So only the few weeks, just few weeks of the having period, only that period. So the voluntary waiting period is there, so I will explain, but only in terms of the how much work we have to do for the as a workers. So only the few weeks gaps we can see. That's we'll finish the calving October, we'll start the mating in November. So only the 4 weeks period, but within that 4 weeks period also we start pre-mating heat. So there's no much gap for the in terms of what we do and how busy we are. So I explained already this one. So cow calendar with major events. This is very important because as I explained earlier, early cowed cows generate more milk income than the late cows cow. So this is based on where they cow. So imagine this animal cowed on 1st of August. So regardless of where they cow, so we have to dry off this animal, whether it's pregnant or an unpregnant animal. We imagine this farm dry off on 1st of June. So imagine this animal cowed 1st of August. That animal has only 300 milking days. 300 milking days. So any animal cowed on 1st of September, that animal has only 270 milking days. That's days in milk. So any animal cowed on 1st of October, that animal can only give 240 days milk. That's why the milking period, that's the days in milk period in New Zealand, is lower than 300. It's more closer to 240 days, not closer to 300 like Sri Lankan year-round calving. So here the main problem is the lactation length. We cannot maintain the lactation length closer to the 300 because of the climatic condition. In our countries, the limiting factor for the grass growth rate is the water, but in New Zealand, the main limiting factor is sunlight and the temperature. When the temperature goes down during the winter period, the grass growth reduction go down, so we have to dry off these animals. And we start the mating, the usually November period, November, December, January period. Usually the mating periods, the 8 weeks to 12 weeks. I will explain. Imagine these animals, we start the mating here, the 1st of October, 1st of November. If this animal get pregnant on the 1st of November, so our dry off date is fixed. So imagine this one, 1st of June will dry off. At the time of dry off, the pregnancy date is 210 days. That's the perfect 210, maybe another 20 days, or just the, if we can dry off that time. So that's another 60 days dry off period, 280 to plus or minus 5. This animal will cow somewhere here. So imagine few animals, maybe any animal get pregnant on 1st of December. So at the time of dry off, that animal, the gestation period is 180 days. That which means another 30 days of milk that animal can give, but we have to dry off because of the lack of grass. So imagine 30 days of milk, we get pregnant, maybe imagine 500 animals on that thing. 500 multiplied by 30 days, 500 multiplied by that many days of milk. Imagine that farm gives 20 liters or 30 liters. That's a huge amount of milk they lose because they get pregnant late. So if they get pregnant early November period or late October period, so they are the gestation time is then 210 to 220 days. So they can generate more milk. That's why, so those animals will cow somewhere August, September period. That's why early pregnant animal will cow the earlier. So those animals generate more milk and more milk income. Imagine any animal pregnant, maybe will take at the 1st of February. That animal, the gestation in terms of gestation days, 150 days. 150 days plus another how many days for the dry off. So that's why the calving period is very long. But the most of we have some targets to finish the calving, finish the mating, the period, and the targets to make them pregnant. So I will explain those. So our major thing is take the 78% of the animal get pregnant within first 6 weeks period. So with first 6 weeks means November period and first 2 weeks of December. So within 6 weeks periods, we'll try our target is to get pregnant 78%. But I'm talking about these numbers, maybe less number of cows, but they lose a lot of milk when we calculate with the milk income. So this is a management issue. So mating overview is, if I go for the broad explanation. So the calvings mainly correlated to the duration of the mating period. Usually mating period is 8 weeks to 12 weeks. It's depending on the farmer's situation. Farmer wants to go for the 15 weeks, 8 weeks, or there's no any right or wrong number. So they can it's depending on the farmer's situation. If farmer situation. So during that period, so if it is 8 weeks calving, the 8 weeks mating, the calving also 8 weeks, 12 weeks mating, 12 weeks calving. Okay. And we'll imagine these animals cow somewhere here around August, September period. But our planned start of mating date is 1st of November. Okay. We usually start the 1st of November, and we do the pre-mating heat check 4 to 5 weeks before the start of mating, which means we are trying to identify non-cyclic and cyclic animals before 10 days prior to start of AI, which means here. So we'll finish the calving somewhere first week or second week of October. around this period, the calving comes up to here as well, September, October period. At the same time, we'll start the mating October, 1st of November. The most of the farmers will start somewhere here. So during that period, we call that, we try to give the 42 days voluntary waiting period. But according to this pre-mating heat checkup, we need to start 4 to 5 weeks before early, which means imagine this is then 1st of November, 4 to 5 weeks means the middle of September. So after the middle of September, any animal cows, we do not consider those animals at the start of mating, but we are thinking about the July, August, and the early September calves. So these periods, any animal cow, so we'll check for the non-cyclic animal for here and the cyclic animal. So aim is to identify the non-cyclic animals and give for the veterinary intervention to make them to cycle. So I will explain how we do those things. And this is a mating overview. Some farmers go for the 6 weeks AI or 4 weeks AI, and they're following with the bulls. And some farmers go for only the AI. And after the AI, some of the farmers go for the short gestation cycle, short gestation semen as well. So short gestation usually give maybe 10 to 15 days early. Those animals cow early. So imagine 50 animals get pregnant with this short gestation animal. So 50 animals will give 10 days early milking. That's the 10 milking days, and 50 animals, that's a 500 milking days. If those animals give maybe 20 liters multiplied by 500 milking days, that's the amount of milk they can generate using this short gestation semen. So they are pulling back the calving using this one. So very, very important and very useful type of semen. And this AI marker. So as I explained earlier, so I said the New Zealand farmers keep the replacement herds for the next generation only from the cows offspring coming from the AI. So if they are coming from the AI and the cows are following with bulls, so we have to identify what is the place where the that's the differentiate from the AI and the bull. So every day we cannot use our phone or the numbers and check then whether this animal get pregnant with the AI or the bull service. So no, it's very hard for management practices. So what they do, they will go for the AI marking here. So we'll call the AI markers. So imagine this is the place where we use the AI markers. That's the AI markers mean. So the semen like the white faced bull, that's the Hereford bull. There's a very clear demarcation rather compared to the other cows. So imagine usually if we get the animal with these types of animal, if it is Friesian or Jersey or crossbred, and one day we will get that type of cows. So if you see that type of animals are born, so that is the end of the AI. So once we see those type of animals, so we won't select those heifers or bulls for the replacement. For the special replacement for the heifers, we won't select. So those animals go for the beef industry. So after that point, all the cows are calving for the cows will go for the beef industry, because the farmers won't keep those offspring coming from the natural service as a replacement. So they always go for the genetic pool is going upwards, not the downwards. And the management practices, what we do here, as I explained earlier, pre-mating heat check. So I already explained that one. And the Metri checking and the intervention for the non-cyclic cows, artificial insemination, natural service, and the short gestation semen. So pre-mating heat detection, as I explained. So aim is to identify non-cyclic cows before start of mating from the whole herd. But as we know, we cannot use the whole herd, even though mentioned here, because we have to give the voluntary waiting period is a must. So we have to exclude those animals 10 days prior to the mating. So aim is to find out. So what are the methods? We can use the tail paint. I will explain those later. Tail paint with the heat patches, or the wearable devices like the cow collars or cow manager, like the artificial intelligence. So those things, those technologies we use. So need to start 4 to 5 weeks before mating. So what we do here, so we usually use, I will explain how we use the tail paint here.
The top of the cow's tail. All right, I'm going to go from there, and there's another line that I normally draw from the middle of the pin bone. So we've got the pin bone here. All right, I'll put a line straight through there, and that's where we would cut off. Some people roll right down the tail, but when a cow is jumping onto mount a cow, you're never going to get that, but they're never going to pick it up. So it's just confusing for the person who's picking cows. We're going to go right up to the top of that ridge, and just a simple roll down. All right, like so. So that's come right down to the middle of those pin bones, and we've gone from the ridge all the way down. All right. So guys, in terms of like efficiencies, how quickly you can do it, obviously that took me like literally like 3 or 4 seconds to do one cow. Now, the reason I like to use tail paint in a bucket is because it's just way quicker. People always think that you spill a shitload. So what we'll do, guys, is we've got 4 cows to paint here. We've got this one here, that one, and the next one over. All right, then we're going to paint. As you can see, with the floor, we've got a clean floor here. We're just going to crack into it, and I'll just show you how much paint we actually lose by doing this. So we've got a moving platform now. I've missed one. It's going to come through here. So, right. So normally when I'm tail painting, guys, I'll actually tap the side of the bucket, okay, and then just get rid of any excess. So we're going up to the top of that ridge. We're pulling all the way down, like so, right down to the middle of the pin bone. Got another girl over here. Top of the ridge, pulling down. All right, some people like to go against the hair as well. So if you get like a cow like this, there's got some hair that can be ripped off. Again, you can just take that hair off, that excess hair. It might be a little bit confusing, and people might do 2 swipes, and people like to sometimes finish with a roll backwards, okay, so that it lifts all the hair off. So we'll just do that. Look, this is.
Yeah, that's how we use tail paint to paint the tail to identify the heat animals. I will explain how we identify those heat animals using tail paint. So as I explained, so the pre-mating heat check we use for all the animals just the first color. As the first color, all the animals will be painted with as the first color. So you can see we have used the orange color for the old animals. So once they come to the heat, so you can see this rub marks and this heat patch is activated, and you can see the tail paint is gone. So that type of animals are heat animals. So actually these are pre-mating heat checks. So that type of animals we use another paint. So that's the second color. So at the end of the 4 to 5 weeks period, so if any animal is having the first color, is still having the first color, which means non-cyclic cows. So easily we can identify the first color is still they are with the first color after 4 or 5 weeks. Those animals are non-cyclists. So all the non-cyclists we won't take for all the non-cyclists for veterinary intervention. We consider the age, health status, other confirmation, the production, a lot of things we consider. So if they are old age or the production is low, we don't do much. But if they are the early like the early lactation cows, like age 4 or 5 years, so we can consider. So it's depend on the farmer's situation. So that's how we use the tail paint to identify heat animals. So this is also a few pictures and the tail paints and the what we call the heat patches we use. So as you can see, that's how we use the tail paint. And the next one is Metri Check. That's a very important. What we do here, examination of vaginal discharge in a cow that has calved recently over 14 days. So why we have to do this one? We use the special probe to collect the vaginal discharge that we call I will show that picture. So most of cows' uterus will become contaminated with bacteria after calving, but the majority of cows will clear those infections naturally, but 10 to 20% won't. So we want to identify those 10 to 20% just before the start of mating, 10 days actually. 10 days, not a little bit earlier, because what we have to, those animals will develop endometritis. So we need to give the extra time to recover those. So what we do, Once we find out those endometritis animals or any metritis conditions, so go for the intrauterine antibiotics. Most important thing is that is non-milk withholding. We cannot use the milk withholding because the 100 animals, 200 animals, because imagine we have the 1,000 animals farm, so that 10% means 100 animals or 200 animals we have to treat. Imagine if you use the milk withholding period, milk withholding antibiotics, huge loss. So we go for the non-milk withholding drugs. So this is the probe that we use. We usually use the cephalosporin. That's the third generation, I think, the drug. So our aim is to identify these first. So I will play a video so you can easily see what we do.
It's like that, we're getting after it. You can see that Metri Check device passes in through the vulva, but if that vulva is dirty, you can use the handle of the device to scrape the worst of the contamination off. A normal vaginal discharge is clear and stringy. I managed to find a couple of good, clear, obvious ones to show you there. When the cow has endometritis, pus will leak from the uterus into the vagina and show up as a pussy vaginal discharge. This discharge can be scored by the degree of pus, and this score can then be used to determine whether a cow should be treated. It's not simply that any cow with any pus should be treated. The exact cutoff is variable depending on the timing of the check and some other factors, and is something the farmer will discuss with their vet ahead of time. As I mentioned, today we're being pretty aggressive as mating is right around the corner. There's no dressing it up. This job is repetitive, dirty, and on a morning like this, cold. But we're not complaining. It's important to get this job done. And with Matt here on the stand with me, it's a great chance to catch up and see how he's doing, how calving has gone, how the cows are cycling in the run up to mating, and generally just chew the cud. I'm a big believer that this is a major part of our job as farm vets, to get to know our clients and show an interest, because without understanding their challenges and their aspirations, we can't work with them as well as we might, and that means poorer results for both man and beast. And God, standing in silence for 3 hours would be pretty bleak. Now, so that's what we're looking for. That cow, notwithstanding, as expected.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for with the Metri check-in. So we look for the vaginal discharge to identify the metritis or endometritis animals. So we'll treat those animals as early as possible and make them clear and make them pregnant if we can. So heat detection. So we use the tail paint as I explained earlier, the same way. But we use some other patches and the wearable devices as well. That's the high technology. So we use usual the heat patches or heat lights or heat strips. These lights the same like the heat patches. Once the animals mounted on the other animals, so with the pressure coming from the top cow, so it will press and it will indicate it will activate. So these lights will flash just like the flashing. So those animals with the flashing the light, so those animals are in the heat, so it's easy to identify. Or if we use the heat patches, we can see the red color activation with the dye comes out. Or if we go for the wearable devices, the computer will generate the list, so we don't have to do anything. So most traditional farmers go for the tail paint. So if we have the technology and the farmer is affordable for the new technologies, they will go for the cow manager or cow collars. So I will explain how the cow collars show the heat animals later. So once we identify those non-cyclic animals, so we'll go for the Seda program or PG programs, depending on the farmer's situation. So if farmer wants to go for the Seda or the PG program, so they will go. So this is one of the Seda program that we use on my farm, but this one is a little bit different to the what we do in Sri Lanka, that's PreMating, but a little bit different. So first day we go for the Seda and the GnRH. So after 7 days, so we'll pull out the Seda and give the 2 ml PG plus ECG. And the second day, after 8 days, so again another will give the second PG dose as well. That our veterinarians says once we give the two PG doses close each other, the conception rate is higher than the usual. So that's a new finding. But I couldn't find the article to prove this one. But according to the veterinarian, I was advised like that. Day 9, so again we'll give the PG. So if any animals come to day 9 heat, so we'll inseminate those animals. Of any animals are not come to the heat after the day 9 also, it will go for the blanket insemination before the 20 hours after the last GNR shot. So that is what we look for, because you can see easily 10 days here. The program is 10 days. That's the aim of the identify non-cyclic animals 10 days prior to start of calving, start of mating. So if we can identify 10 days prior, so we can go for these type of the program. So we'll make them the breed, because very important. Submission is really important. So I will explain how we what are our targets as well. So as I explained, we need to pregnant the animals as quick as possible. We do not expect to be to see the animals get pregnant later period. So our aim is to make them pregnant as quick as possible. So the heat detection, we used some technologies here. So heat detection advancement, like the cow collars and the cow manager, and we use some sick semen and chilled semen also. Most farmers go for the deep frozen, but some farmers use chill semen as well. So chill semen gives the higher conception rate also. So to prove this one also, I couldn't find any article or any written document. So what is the conception rate for this? But some farmers use chill semen. So heat detection advancement, what we use here, the heat patches along with the heat tail pane and the camera detection as well. So electronic heat detectors, cow collars or cow managers. So I will explain how we this camera, this the bottom picture that's with the yellow color circle. So you can see here there's a camera. This was coming from my farm. So the animals painted with the this and the tail paint and the heat patches. So once the cows pass this camera will take a picture. This camera will take a picture, and the system says according to the camera whether these animals are missing animals or heat activated, or the camera will identify the red color strips. Once the red color is there, or if there's no heat patch, the camera will say to system that's a heat animal. So that's how it's happened. So if there's the white color mark, it says non-activators. These are all the non-activated. But the missing one is activated. It says the camera thinks actually the missings coming from that type of animals. I will explain because with the pressure sometimes those the heat patches come off. But if we combine the heat patches along with the tail paint, as I show a picture earlier, the tail paint is rub off and the activate heat patch. So that's how we the tail paint give little help to identify the right animals if we use the camera. So if we use camera, most of the farmers use tail paint as well to help. So this is the computer will generate the missing heat patches and the activated heat patches. So on this days, activated heat patches 27 animals been drafted, and the missing animals 26 been drafted. So we'll physically examine those animals actually whether they have the rub mark, or if any heat patch goes off because of the rain condition, or any just hasn't stick properly. So we'll exclude those animals later by physically, or and as I explained earlier, these are some other the methods of we use for the heat detection. Or we'll go for the heat stickers like this. All these animals heat stickers are red color. That means the pressure comes from the other animals, those animals in heat. So you can see that all the animals, the tail paints also go off. The next artificial intelligence is the cow collars and cow manager. How we see the cow manager or cow collar. Cow collars actually this one is coming from a cow collar. you can see what they look for. Usually heat animals eat less. What will happen when they eat less? Their rumination goes down. They are really active than the normal days. That means their activity is going high. When the activity is going high, the rumination goes down. That's the typical mark for the standing heat. So what we look for this diamond shape. So once we see that, you can see this one. So clearly within 18 to 17 days, within gap within the duration, the same thing happens. That's the heat period. So if any farmers using the collars, they don't have to do anything, just run the animals with the milking. So the system will automatically generate the report, and those animals will be drafted automatically. So we don't have to do anything. Just very, very easy for the farmers. Why do we have to use these type of the technologies? Because of invisible heats. So if we use the tail paints or these things, but invisible heat very hard to identify. But within the animals, the physiological changes, these things will identify by the technological things. So to identify the invisible heats, these technologies will be helpful. So if we can go for these high technologies, we can go for the higher submission rate. Submission means once we submit those animals, there's high chance of getting pregnant rather than just leaving those animals. And once we use the system generated this cow collars, so they will give us the breeding window. So this is just a picture of the software outcome. So just a picture, it shows the breeding window. What's the breeding window means? We are best time to identify, best time to do the AI. So this is very important when we go for the sex semen or the conventional semen. So I'll explain this one with the time of events with my next slides, what we are looking for this breeding window means. So it's the timing of event. So this is the messy slide, but I will try to explain this one as I can. So its heat starts with the onset of heats. So here, so usually heats go like that. So the ovulation happens usually after 25 hours or 32 hours, within that range period after onset of heat. Usually when we observe the heat, we call that standing heat, but the onset of heat we cannot see within, that's the physiological thing. Outside, if we can see the physical things, that's the standing heat only that we can identify. So that's if we use the cow collars or those wearable devices, they will identify this onset of heat, and according to the what the system has been uploaded, so they will generate this breeding window. So according to what they have told, the system will tell us that okay, 3 hours, 11 hours, that's the just before how many hours for the ovulation or for the insemination. So it's very useful tool if we use the scholar. So I will explain this one again. So once we see the heat, animals mean our usual and another thing is most important one, most New Zealand farmers do once a day AI. So that's why I want to explain this one. We usually go in Sri Lanka twice a day AI. If you see the morning AM PM rule, if you see the morning heat, standing heat, we'll go for the afternoon AI. So if we observe the animal like if we see the afternoon, so we'll go for the evening morning AI. But here, regardless of where they come to the heat, we only go for the once a day AI. That because of the management practices. Because the technician, most of the technician doesn't want to come back to the same farm twice, and it's a labor incentive and labor cost also high. So they only go for the once a day AI. Once we use the once a day AI here, so according to this one, the standing heats happens after 12 hours to 18 hours of onset of heats. That's what we see actually. So after once we see here, best time of to do the AI is 18 to 20 to 26 hours. Within that period, onset of heats. So once we see the onset of heat, we cannot see that's the physiological thing. Only we can see the standing heats. If we see the standing heats morning, So we'll go for the afternoon AI. That's mean the exactly 12 hours. That's the AM PM rule. That's the best time to AI. That's what we say, that's you see here, best time to AI. If you see the morning, so those animals will be bred afternoon. That's the AM PM rule. But New Zealand farmers only go for once a day AI, which means usually we draft animals imagining the 6 AM today. For example, say if we draft 6 AM animal with the tail paint or any other system, not with the collars or any other the variables. So if we go for those traditional methods, we saw that standing heat animals, activated heat patches or heat tail paint. So those animals clearly should be within that period, which means at the time of we draft, those animals are past 12 hours from the onset of heat. That's mean here. So those animals will be bred once a day. So imagine that's the 6 AM. So imagine is any animal come to the heat after the 6 AM. 6 AM means after if any animals come to the heat after the 6 AM means, this is for example, so that comes with the standing heat. That means that animals get activated, that's the standing heat. That means within the physiologically, that animal passed 12 hours. Imagine that animal already passed 12 hours, but we go for the next day morning, that animal will be drafted and mid-morning, which means from this day, from this point, we'll go for another 24 hours, which means clearly here. If we go once a day AI, we'll draft these animals after 36 hours of onset of heat. So once we go for the once a day AI, that's what happened here in New Zealand. But that period is from, imagine any animals come to the after 6 PM, which means 6 PM, that's mean here. So when they come to the standing heat 6 PM, they will come to the morning 6 AM next day morning. So those animals start of the standing heat here in the 12 hours. Those animals will be drafted and mated here and they bred here 24 hours. But during that 12 hours period, that's the daytime period, if any animals come to the heat, those animals clearly late for the AI. So that's another issue, but they don't consider about the that amount, because within that period the number of animals comes, but compared to what they have to use as the cost in terms of what they spend, so they don't go for that one. But if you go for the twice a day AI, we can get the good results. And the same time, as I explained here, because the best time of the AI means once we do the AI, it takes at least 6 to 8 hours for the capacitation and the swimming. That means if we inseminate after 24 hours of onset of heat, another 8 hours means somewhere here around 30 hours or 32 hours where the ovulation happens. If we go for the insemination here, 8 hours, the semen will swim somewhere here. Within that period, it is activated semen, then ovum will come here to the isthmus, then the fertilization happens here. So if we go for once we go for the late AI somewhere here, so what will happen? It will take semen, it will take another 8 to 6 hours by the time of when the semen is activated and they went to the right place, but the ovum already came out and the oocyte is not within the fertilization. That's the ovum's viable periods already passed. That's why late, once we do the AIs very lately, those animals won't get pregnant. But even though those animals will get pregnant, the high chance of early embryonic death because of the quality of the oocyte. So that's why very important to find out the best time to do the AI. And this picture was I taken from the Oswinsel's lecture. I think most of you have seen that one. It clearly shown as also here. Even though standing heat, finish of the standing heat, if we have some little period to do the AI. So here, within that period of the AI. So it take another 8 hours to take 10 hours to swim and get activated. So the same time the oocyte release somewhere here. But if we go for the late AI somewhere here, so that there's a chance to get the fertilization happen. But the best time, as the source in the picture says, the best time somewhere here. So once we go for the standing heat or the AM/PM rule, just before the end of the standing heat, when the semen swim and they get activated, the egg release. Though once the egg comes out, the semen should be there for the fertilization. That's very important. So with a little bit early AI is good rather than the late AI. So when to inseminate? The optimum time for AI is 12 to 24 hours before ovulation. Look at this one. Before ovulation, 24 hours. 24 hours before ovulation. I will go back. 24 hours before ovulation, which means ovulation happens 32 hours after onset of heat, which means 24 hours before ovulation means somewhere here. That is the place we want to start our AI. So this is this one 12 to 24 hours. If it is 12 hours, somewhere here, that's the best time for the AI. And that one is another which correlated to 4 to 14 hours after onset of his standing heat. I will go back 4 to 16 hours of the onset of his standing heat. Okay. After onset of standing heat, 4 to 16 hours. I'll go back. This is the onset of standing heat. 4 hours means somewhere here. That's the best time. And 16 hours means somewhere here. Again, still we can go. That's the best time. That's the best time for the AI. So after 16 hours of onset of heat, the standing heat, we cannot go more than 16 hours. More than 16 hours. If we go for the more than 16 hours somewhere here, by the time the semen get activated and swim, the life of the ovum is almost dead. So insemination time is really important. So what we do here, the heifer breeding, a little bit different. Different management practices depending on where they are. We usually don't keep our heifers within the milking platform. So we usually send them to the runoff block we call the grazier. That's another contractor who grow for those animals for us. So mating at 15, but the most important one is mating at 15 months old and the calving at 24-month-old. So if any animals is not pregnant within 15 to 18 months period, and if those animals will be culled and those heifers go for the beef industry. We won't try for 2 times or 3 times with the heifers. No any animals will be kept after the AI period. Heifers are only if they are pregnant, they will live. Otherwise, they will go for beef industry. So usually some farmers use the bulls for 8 to 10 weeks, but some farmers, some modern farmers, those farmers go for the synchronization for the whole replacement herd. That means the 20 to 25% from the whole herd. So they go for the Seda or the PG double dose program and go for the synchronization and use sex semen. So because if we go for the if we go for the bull service, we cannot take the offspring from those heifers. So that's a waste. But if we go for the sex semen or any other program with the artificial breeding, we can keep those animals, the offspring coming from those heifers for the replacement herd. This is the weight range that we are focusing on. It's also depending on your breed. That's my farm. We are aiming at the time of the calving with the 24 months, 550. Because we are the Frisian heifers. So 550 is depending on the where the cow the breeding what the breed is. But the cutoff mark is 15 months. Whether they are in the right weight or not. If they are in the right weight, if they are underweight, they won't get pregnant. So what will happen? They go for the beef industry. If they are pregnant, they will come to the milking. The reproduction performance targets, we can conclude very quickly now. The reproduction performance targets, what we call, what we looking for, 3-week submission rate. That is the most important thing. What is submission means? Submission means number of cows AI in the first 3 weeks multiplied by 100 and total divided by total number of animals at the mating starts. Imagine we have 1,000 animals at the time at the start of the mating. So within the first 3 weeks period, 900 animals should be bred. Within 3 weeks period, 900 animals. That's the submission rate. 900. If you go for the above 900, that's the best. But if you stay maybe within 3 weeks period, 70%, 80%, 89, 70%, closer to 80%, you should do go for the veterinary intervention and go for the those non-cyclists. Otherwise, if there's this submission is very important. And 6-week in-calf rate also very important. As I explained earlier, early pregnant animals will cow early within the season, though they will give more milk. So 6-week in-calf rate, within the 6 weeks, we need to pregnant 78%. Imagine we have, for example, 1,000 animal herd. So within 6 weeks period, we have to pregnant 780 animals to give the more milk rather than getting the some animals later pregnant. Conception rate, our aim is to get the 60%. 60%. So the empty rate, that's the non-pregnant rate, but it's depending on the various reasons, the production, the breed condition, and what they are feeding, and the mating length, a lot of things. So that's why I cannot mention a number here, but empty rate depending on a lot of various factors. The reproductive performance targets, that's as I explained here, the conception rate 78%, the in-calf rate 78%, which means 78% of animals should cow within 6 weeks periods. Imagine those animals cow the 6 weeks period, so they will generate that amount of milk, and even same like 3 weeks or 6 weeks. If they're the 6 weeks in-calf rate is 70, so they will produce only that amount. So they will lose this amount of milk because of the seasonal pattern. If we do not have seasonal pattern, we don't need to think about this much, but we have a pressure of the dry off, because our dry off targets is there, we can't do much. So imagine this farm, the conception was in-calf rate was low, but these animals will be pregnant later, but they will lose this amount of milk because of the timing. Another targets, our aim is to cow the whole herd by the 9 weeks, but if we can make our 78% in-calf rate with the cows, and then heifers will come and play the role as well. So within the 6 weeks periods, we can cow 87% of the animals. So what will happen? Only 13% remaining for the as late calvers. So imagine we have the 1,000 herds, 1,000 animals. So within 6 weeks periods, 870 animals will be in milking condition. So only the 130 animals are the late producers. So that's why the reproduction is really important. Timing is really important. So dairy statistics, I want to show a few things. Last 20 years, you can see maybe 12 years, the conception rate is close to the 50%. So they keep the conception rate, it's 50%, but problem is they go for only for the once a day AI. So if they go for the twice a day AI, the conception will go up. But we have to think about they only go for the once a day when we analyze this data. And the mating length and the empty rates. So the mating length, as I explained earlier, empty rates means non-pregnant rate. It's only clearly correlated to the mating duration. So most of the farmers for these last few years, so they go for 76 days, 77 days. Their non-pregnant rate is 16%. So imagine they go for this 78 days pregnancy period. So they will get the 16% in non-pregnant rate. So if we increase the length of mating, so we can go for the low empty rate, but the problem with the calving pressure, and the drive of pressure, they will generate less amount of milk even though they are pregnant. And another good one, the number of AI per cow. For this is last 20 years, you can see that's very important as Sri Lankan as well. So they have used only 1.3 straw per animals to make pregnant. For last 20 years, only 1.3 straws, which means most of animals only get one time. Only some animals get only 2 times. Some animals even won't get a chance to get the AI. So those animals who cowed later will go for the natural service. So those animals, the offspring coming from the natural service won't keep. So that's how they are increasing their genetic pool. Last 20 years, only 1.3 straw per animal. So if we go for that type of improvement, so they are maintaining 1.3. That's how their genetic pool is going up. So once their genetic pool is going up, what will happen? Their production also going up. So from 2000 compared to 2009, the average liter per animal, so it was 3,600. After a few years, now it has come up to the 4,400. But usually we won't talk about the average liters in New Zealand system. We use for the milk solid system. So it's a little bit different. So we do only consider the fat and protein percentage of the milk, not the fat and SNF. So SNF means we don't take about the sugar factor. So these farmers will be paid fat and protein percentage. So last 20 years, you can see the national production. This is not just a farmer. Just a national production is going up last 20 years because they go for the selection and culling. So culling and carryovers. So the main 4 reasons. So as I explained, all the empty cows, which means non-pregnant animals, go for the beef industry. They don't try with the much more things to keep those animals in the milking condition. They go for the beef industry, and the good animals will be kept, and they will take the offspring from these animals, and they produce the more milk. And the recurrent mastitis cases or severe lame cases, all your producers, they will be expelled from the farm for the benefits. So the replacement herds, the most of the farmers use to 20 to 25%. So imagine this is a good example, a good calculation we can. So if we keep the death rate a little bit lower, and the lame animals, sometimes lame comes, we cannot prevent the much more lame, and the somatic cell count mastitis animals, recurrent cases, raw producers. So if we keep our death rate is low, lame is low, high somatic count low, mastitis case low. So if we keep our non-pregnant animals are low, which means our pregnancy rate is high. If we want to keep our herd size is steady, what we can do? We can remove easily these low producers. So if we want to remove these low producers, we have to go for that, remove these lame animals and some high somatic cell count animal. But if we go for these higher numbers, we cannot remove these low producers. If we won't go for the, remove the low producers, what we do? Keep this production and reproduction high, remove these low producers, then the average production will go up. That's all I have to discuss. So I think it's exactly 1 hour. So it's open for the discussion or any questions. According to my knowledge, I can explain. So as I'm a veterinarian in Sri Lanka, not a veterinarian in New Zealand yet. So future, that is my aim, but I'm not a veterinarian, just a clarification. So I'm working as a farm manager here. So the presentation is open for the any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga. It was very impressive and informative presentation. You elaborated a lot of farming and especially on reproductive management. So I think the gathering got a lot of new information from you, new knowledge from you. You are a veterinarian in Sri Lanka in dairy farms, and you have very good experience in Sri Lankan and New Zealand context. And so now the participants can directly ask questions if you have. I see there are a lot of dairy veterinarians here in this forum today. I see very senior Dr. Shaktivel is also here. And there are a lot of young dairy veterinarians, not only from Sri Lanka, from abroad as well. So even you can switch on your mic and directly ask questions from Dr. Iroshana, or else you can type your questions in the chat box. So before we get until we get questions from audience, shall I ask one question, Dr. Iroshana, about feeding? The nutrition management. What are the main deficiencies identified in your New Zealand context, and what are the supplements you are giving to improve the reproductive performance of this cattle in New Zealand dairy farms? For example, vitamins and premixes. What are the deficiencies you have identified?
So mainly the problem is our system. So we do not go for the deficiencies mainly. So before we start of mating, what we do here, so we check the blood and liver samples. According to the blood and liver samples, we go for the mainly the selenium or the B12, those supplements, so those vitamins and minerals. So before we go for the mating, we'll analyze those things, whether they are in the copper levels are right level, the magnesiums or trace elements, the selenium, those, and with the iodine. So we'll measure those and do. And but mainly we go for the each and every farmer use a good mineral mixture, and which is used with the water. Most of the farmers, that conventional traditional farmers, mix with the water. And but when we go for the modern dairy farmers, they go for the mixture wagon system. So they feed within the milking shed as well. So so I'm not able to give the product names or those stuff. It's not I don't have much more knowledge about what the other farmers use, their knowledge in terms of the names or those. But most of the farmers, what they do, they analyze their deficiencies, and they go for the soil treatment as well as cow's treatment as well. So if any minerals or any inorganic things less in the soil, so they straight go for the soil treatment as the fertilization as a fertilizer. So even for the animals also, we go for the based on the what we see from the blood picture.
Right. Thank you, doctor. What's the culling rate normally in your dairy herds? For example, if the cows are not in calf within 6 weeks or else 9 weeks, you're going to cull them and they go for the beef industry. So what's the average culling rate?
So as you see, all the non-pregnant animals will go these 16%.
About 16%.
Plus any dead animals. So any recurrent mastitis cases, not the low producers. That's the only the things that we can change the low producers. Sorry, I'll go here. So most of the animals, so all the empty animals, they will cow, but some of them keep as carryovers. That means they will keep another year without making any milk or any income generation. So those animals is a burden for a farmer. So they don't keep those empty animals. They send for those animals for the empty, what we call it, beef industry, plus lame animals culling. So that's why most of the farmers rear 20 to 25% as their replacement. So each year, which means the 20 to 25%, within 4 years, 5 years time, it's a full new herd. That's right, the age in terms of age wise. Each 5 years time, it's refreshed.
Right. Thank you. Questions from the audience?
I'm Dushandan. I'm
Yes,
Dr.
doctor.
Dushandan from Batticaloa, Sri Lanka. So I want to ask, in New Zealand, I hope there are different industries in dairy and beef. So is that okay industry in meat? So they prefer mostly beef industry. So how it will get to send the beef animals to the dairy animals to beef industry?
Dr.
Am I
Iroshana, did you hear the question?
No,
I didn't
actually, I
hear
didn't
well.
hear. So
in New Zealand, I hope there are two different industries in beef and dairy. So people prefer beef cattle rather than dairy cattle. So how it goes? What is the marketing that the price of the dairy cow that is sent to a beef industry? Is it different?
actually, I don't have the idea about in terms of the price, but the most of the beef industry depending on the dairy industry, because most of the empty animals and the babies, that's what case what we call the bobby cows. Imagine we have 1,000 animals to cow, so only we keep 400 animals. So what will happen? 400 heifers or 400 heifers actually. So what will happen to next 600 offspring coming for a season? That's those animals go for the beef industry. So we have 11,000 dairy farms. The same only they can keep 20% to 25%. So all those animals, they go for the beef industry, but and the empty animals. So but I don't have much idea about what they earn by selling a actual beef animal versus dairy cow for the beef production. So I'm sorry, actually, I don't know that one. But the taste wise, in terms of taste, but there will be a difference, but I don't know about that much.
Thank you, Dr. Dushantan.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
And
Doctor, I have
just
a question.
yes,
Are you doing any genomic or genetic selection to select the dams for as future mothers? Are you doing practice in that in your farm?
Not with. I didn't get that point actually, doctor.
I mean, you are going to select the mothers based on genetic selection, like breeding value calculation or something. Are you
Yes,
doing
that is also the big part. So we call the breeding worth and the production worth, but most of the farmers only keep the offspring coming from the artificial breeding. So they select the best quality semen for their farm the most of the time. So if any animals get pregnant with the natural service, which means bulls, they won't keep. That means all the heifers coming from the AI, so which is the most good animals. So so that's what they do. But within that artificial breeding time, so if any animals born with the artificial insemination, plus they won't go for any selection out of that. Only they will go for the demarcation. If any animals get pregnant with the artificial insemination and born as a heifer, so they will keep.
Actually, that is based on phenotypical selection.
Yes, yeah, not the genotypic. Yeah, the I don't know about the when the we have the institute called the LIC. So they are the main producer for the Siemens and those stuff. So they may have some research and they are doing that one. But as the farmers, we don't go for the genotypic selection and keeping within the. But we do the genetic DNA selection to identify the dam. So that's what we do here, some farmers. But imagine, so when any animal cowed within a small space, imagine 50 animals cowed in a day, and we have to identify which animal's actual mother and the calf. So it's very hard. But the most of the farmers guess what they see. So imagine 5 animals together with the 5 moms together in the same place. Okay, we imagine this animal goes this number, this animal goes this number, then we'll make that one. That's not 100%. That's maybe 50%, 60% accuracy. But some farmers, like my farm, so we go for the DNA identification. We collect all the babies, the heifers, and put into the our calf shed. So after 4 weeks time, so when they've been dehorned, so we'll collect the DNA sample and send into the laboratory. So we already collected the DNA sample from the whole herd, so they will match with the DNA sample. So they will give us the numbers, matching the numbers. So most of farmers just go for the by the eyes, that's the guess, but some farmers go for that type of system as well.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Usha. And just one question in the chat box. That is from Dr. Disna. She's asking about the preventive measures of mastitis in New Zealand, and she's asking whether do you vaccinate? Yeah.
Based on my knowledge, we don't do any vaccinations. What we do here, so main thing is our main calving is late winter and early spring. That is the most of time we get the rain. So based on our climatic condition, what we do, we try to do the hygienic milking, and try to keep the milk in parlor hygienically, maintains those, and annually we most of the farmers annually remove the rubber wares. That's we replace the rubber wares, and some farmers they do strip before the cups on as well. So in my farm we do 4 times stripping for a week, so each quarter. So each animals will be stripped 4 times within a week. So in a clusters days, so within that period we can find out. And the same time as a prevention, what we do, once they come to just before the calving as well, we try to go for the tail trimming, those stuff. So metritis can lead to the mastitis as well. So before they calve also, we clear the what we call the tail, and after the calving also we'll trim those, and we'll try to keep if there's, because those animals I will go here. Most of the time they go to the good paddock. So if they are in a wet condition, we use the big area, that's the density will be low. So if there is the heavy rain comes, most of the farmers, what they do, they will the big area, so they can make the areas bigger and get in the mud condition a little bit lower. And most of the farmers use the teat sprayer. Not most of, I think I would say 100%. They will use the teat sprayer. That's the must. So they check the somatic cell count as well. So that's another thing. So the milk company won't collect some milk if it is what we call the 400,000 the cells over than the 400,000. They won't pick up our milk. So our optimum it's 150. If the farmer is maintaining below the 150,000 the somatic cell count throughout the season, they will get some incentives. So farmers go for that one. So some farmers, if they go for 400, above 400, the milk supply manager will call them and says, okay, we are going to stop for a few days. Once you get down the problem down, so we'll only collect. So that's why they know that one. So those are the management practices we use as the preventive methods. So based on my knowledge, we don't do any vaccination. But the other thing is when we dry off, blanketly, we go for the dry cow plus teat seal. So that's also a good preventive method. Each and every animals go for the what we call the dry cow plus teat seal. But now new regulation comes here. So the vets don't want us to use for the blanket the dry cow therapy. So they want us to use less amount of antibiotics, so they prefer to just only use the teat seal, the good animals, just like they are throughout the season their somatic cell count is lower than 100,000. They advise us go for the just for the teat seal, but some farmers doesn't like, some farmers don't want to do it because it's a risk as well. But that's the, but anyhow 2030 I think they are going to take a big decision on the dry cow therapy as well, so it's coming with the time. We can't use blanket dry cow therapy in future.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Are there any more questions?
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
As far as I know, in New Zealand, soon after calving, they send the replacement herd or other calf to so in what age the calf will.
Your
Thank you.
question was not clear, Dr. Dushantan. Can you repeat
Yes.
it?
As far as I know, in New Zealand, soon after calving, calf sent to the contractor to rear until it became
No.
I think.
Yes, I got it. We don't do the soon after calving, so we keep the heifers, that's our replacement herd, until we wean them. So we usually wean them at the maybe it's depending on the what the requirement you have. So in the breed wise or what your management practices, we usually go for 100 kilograms for the, or 100 and 120 kilograms at the weaning weight for the Frisian animals. If it is the Jersey, if once they come to the 80 or 80 or over, we'll wean them. So based on the what is your cutoff mark, we'll keep them until they wean. So from birth to the weaning within the within our milking platform, that's within us. So we have to look after those babies, so those cows within our farm. So after the weaning, only we send those animals. So before the weaning, so usually we go for the rota and coronavirus vaccination just maybe 3 weeks to 8 weeks before calving for the dams. So what will happen? So once we go for those antibody vaccination, so they will develop the antibodies against those cases. So it's good for, but sometimes it will get the rotavirus infection as well. So any coccidiosis or any calf sores, otherwise just like any other respiratory infections. So if we keep the higher density, so they will get the respiratory signs as well. So those are the major conditions that get for the cows. After that, we will send the cows after weaning.
There's a question from Dr. Bandara. He's asking whether there are any organic farms.
Yes.
And if so, how they operate.
So when we to the farm, same farm.
Are there any organic farm? Yes, we have organic farms. So they are not allowed to use any inorganic fertilizer or any. They will only use the effluent, and they even can't buy the supplement feeds from the outside. So that's mean that's like the silage from coming from the inorganic farm. So they can't buy those. So they have to strictly maintain the organic condition. So those milks, the payout will be higher payment than the usual the normal farmers. But I don't have any idea what they are earning in terms of the milk price. But they clearly know the organic farms But the problem is organic farmers produce less amount of milk, and maybe compared to the other farms, the cost of production may be a little bit, I cannot see exactly, but they will be paid more than the other usual farmers, because the efficiency wise, so they cannot take the much more milk out of the live body weight of the animals, because they can't feed much. Most of the time they are depending on the feed demand and supply curve, so they can't import the feed from outside much. But as the normal farmer, you can see for the deficit, we can manage with the imported feed from the outside.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Iroshana. So as we don't have any more questions, I think it's now time to wind up the session. Dr. Iroshana, it was very informative and a very good presentation. We are very much thankful for your fruitful presentation and for giving this your valuable time to share your knowledge and experience everything with the veterinarians in Sri Lanka and all over the other countries. So thank you, Dr. Iroshana. And now I invite our one of our executive committee member, Dr. Yushika, for the vote of thanks. Dr. Yushika, could you please deliver the vote of thanks?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Disnaka. I would like to specially thank you for the very informative and interactive lecture, which is on reproduction management of dairy cows in New Zealand by Dr. Iroshana Kulathunga. Thank you, Doctor. And it was a very productive session. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Disnaka, our Vice President of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, for the fine moderation he has done throughout the session. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants who were there and asking questions and made it a very interactive session. Thank you all. And I would like to wind up the session. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Disnaka, if you can.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ishika and Dr. Iroshana and everyone for joining today. We'll meet up again in a similar webinar later on. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.